I had moments I could recall where I couldn't get out of my car. You're stuck there. It gets pretty dark when you're in those times.
When you're in the middle of it, you can't see outside of it. You can't see future version of yourself. You can't see how this is going to better you.
There's probably 5 people around you that have all gone through the same thing. And yeah, it's a whole different world. Your life ends up in these segments. It feels like it was a different lifetime, but it all adds up to something. There's something so comforting about owning property, and it's an empowering feeling. Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm your guest, Joey Halperin, and with me as always is your hosts, Tom and Mark.
All right, this is a great episode. Good to start talking about neighborhoods. Good to talk about development. This is it feels like we haven't had one of these in a while. It feels good.
We don't talk about ground up much, and we don't talk about what it takes to get into ground up or what it doesn't take to get into ground up, because I think people really look at that as being the holy grail of being a developer, and they feel it's almost untouchable. So,
yeah, cover a lot of neighborhoods today too. We go south side, we go north side.
We did, yeah. We talked about our guest here has got a lot of experience in all those areas.
Yeah. So, all right, let's jump in. What's our housing provider tip of the week?
All right, so we're getting into winter right now, and we sent out all of our residents, the fall newsletter. We sent out a quarterly newsletter, and what we did is we really made sure there's a lot of things they know about coming up for winter. And I rattled off a couple of them here, but making sure they know who to call if there's any issues. Sometimes tenants still don't know, and they will call your main line when you have an emergency 24-hour line. Making sure they know the coldest parts of their unit. If you only have a few units, then you should know kind of that back sunroom. It gets a little colder, and not for them to freak out and call 311, or provide them a space heater and just prevent them from being cold. Warn them that you're going to probably come back to them a few days in February and tell them that they're going to have to drip their water. And I kind of give them the heads up. That way, when February, you're like, hey, remember I told you that in November? Remind them about changing their filters. Obviously, this time of year, you should have your tenants be changing the filters if you have individual units. That's something you could definitely put in the lease. Unhook all the outdoor hoses. That's something that early on. Now you have a lot of the frost protection bibs, but a lot of the older buildings still have the ones that can still freeze. And then, any other intricacies your property has. These are a lot of these buildings you own are 120 years old. This is something weird about it in the winter, or this part of you might have a higher risk of a particular part of your basement that could freeze. So just make sure you're preparing for it, and make sure you're preparing your tenant for it, and just having that conversation with them. That way, when something goes down at 2 a.m. in February, they've already kind of heard it, possibly.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump in here. So our guest today, he's done over 50 flips on the south side, done a bunch of development on the north side as well, some pretty cool projects, which we're going to jump into. He's also, besides being a developer, he's an agent that helps both retail clients and also works exclusively with investors. So without further ado, Joey Halperin, welcome to the show.
Yes. I could cross this off my bucket list. I don't know how you guys accepted my application, but I'm happy to be here.
You made the joke that Morse was on, so if he was on, that was
as soon as I saw him get on, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to let him one up me in this game. He likes himself enough. I needed to get there.
Very good. I don't have my notes pulled up. Alex Morse was on a few episodes ago. We'll link to that in the show notes. So Joey, just let's talk about getting started here. Coming out of college, you didn't go straight into real estate.
No.
What did you do? And then let's get down the path here.
Sure. So coming out of college, it was actually, I forget exactly, but it was in the time of 2008, 2009 during the market crash. All that meant to me at the time was no one was hiring. So back in those days, it was like my friends weren't getting jobs. No one really gave a shit, but my friends were getting jobs. I wanted a job by the time my senior year was coming up. I went to a career fair at Colorado where I went to school, interviewed with Accenture. I don't know the first thing about technology or consulting or anything like that, but they're like, yeah, we'll give you money and a paycheck and benefits. And I'm like, okay, this is cool and sounds fancy. So went through that interviewing process. Once the hiring freeze was lifted, about 6 months later, when the economy kind of just started to come out of the hole, moved to Washington, D.C., had a government project working for Accenture as a consultant. Again, the joke, I forgot what TV show it is, but consulting, I still don't really know what it means. You just charge people a ton of money and have these 22-year-old kids running around doing shit, and here we go. So I had a really good time. I did it for 2 years. one day it kind of hit me that the suit and tie life was not in the cards for me. One thing about myself, like once something enters my brain, it's kind of over. It's done. So quit probably within a week. My dad has been a general contractor basically my whole life. So I started learning the game from him. He does just like residential sort of remodeling projects, roof, siding, kitchens, basements. So I started doing that. I did it on the south side of Chicago, which I could probably write a book on that one day. And it just some unbelievable experiences, great experiences, and then some funny days too. Should I keep going?
Let's hear one. Let's hear a funny experience before we move on here.
You did hundreds of them down there. Like,
So this was even before that. I was literally going to like, homeowners' homes. And Alex loves this joke. I literally had a sample window in my trunk, and I would try to sell windows. And I was actually like booted from a house once in my early days because I didn't know how to operate the sample window. The whole family is sitting there on the couch, and I'm trying to show them how you could tilt the sash in for easy cleaning and how it locked. They're like, you don't even know how to use the fucking window. And I'm just like, somehow though I convinced them to buy. And I think there's probably a story there or a lesson there that like I was able to kind of use my sales skills and just be honest, that, hey, I suck at this. My guy Max, who installs all the windows, is amazing. The warranty is amazing. And they ended up buying, I think, 6 windows. They probably felt bad for me. But yeah, from there, that's when I got hired by a few local a local real estate investment company. And then where Mark and I know each other, a group out of California hired me to kind of essentially flip houses for them, also mostly on the south and west side. I can't really, no, I can think of a specific story there. There was a house, I got a call at 11 o'clock at night, and it was, she said, this is your neighbor over at XYZ, Indiana. There's a guy outside your house with a mask and a bottle of a gasoline tank. And I said, ma'am, you should probably call the police. I can't do anything about it. Thanks for letting me know. And I ended up having to spend all I am is the GC on this project. Dylan and those guys owned it. And, I ended up having to spend the whole next day at 107th or whatever it is, 114th at the police station. I'm like, there's these moments in your career, I'm sure you guys have had them, where you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
I had a couple this
my
morning.
parents saved money to help me go to college, and here I am doing X, right?
Well, especially, I always find it funny coming from Deerfield, a little bit of a bubble up on the North Shore, and then I'm pretty sure I was the only one that ended up in Englewood selling windows and siding, but everything happens for a reason, and I enjoyed it. And the South Side, honestly, I still own property there and would go back there. It's, just like everywhere else, it's 99% great folks down there who need remodeling services as well. So I had a good time.
Did the guy burn your house down? The house down?
So he was the previous tenant. He didn't burn the house down, but it wasn't over. There was a day where my workers called the police and said he had a gun there. So it got a little dicey. But yeah, walking those houses for those guys out from California, that's really the overall thing I'll always remember, because I would go by myself. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here because I'm sure you guys have done it. But every week, I'd go look at maybe 15 houses for them by myself. Usually they're abandoned, on abandoned, boarded up blocks. I'm not a big weapon guy, so I just kind of had that long flashlight,
Yes, the mag light.
the mag light. And I'd usually, and the notes, it's usually go in through the back door. It's ajar.
Yeah.
It's dude. So there's been times I've walked over living bodies, sleeping bodies. I've come face to face with people who are, shocked and surprised to see me, and all they're doing is trying to have some shelter and stay warm. They're not there to assault me or anything. So in 6 or 7 years doing that stuff, I never, I guess it's done, but I never had any real bad episodes, which is really kind of cool.
But stepping over someone that's sleeping there on the floor is that's almost okay to you, but that'd be you talk to an agent in Naperville, they'd be like, oh my gosh.
You talk to me today. Yeah. I would never, now I'm heck no.
Is that where we were going in?
But I don't know what it was. I think just that having that opportunity and knowing that these guys out in California or the group that was here that was doing 300 unit buildings, like that's such a big opportunity. And in our world, there's no salaries, there's no guarantees. So I was like, I'm going to do whatever I got to do. And I think that overcame like any sort of like fear. Now I'd be like way too scared.
This is not worth it. Yeah, the risk you took 15 years ago, even for me, climbing through. I used to always climb through windows. Like that was the goal. It was the challenge. Like, all right, this is vacant. The sheriff's sale's tomorrow. How can I get in here right now without technically breaking anything?
Right. Yeah, it's a whole different world. But it's funny. Your life ends up in like these segments. It feels like it was a different like lifetime, but it all adds up to something.
Yeah, I remember just driving down to the South Side 3-4 days a week, having an office there. Like the offices we had in the South Side of Chicago were like the nastiest
My office
things
was
ever.
Panera at 95th and Western because it was the only, I would have leads, as we called them, throughout the day and into the evening, but with long breaks. So I had nowhere to go. I wasn't going to drive back to Logan Square where I lived and then go another hour back at night. So I would just sit at Panera, jump on their Wi-Fi, and try to connect the dots. But it worked out.
So coming out of this, when do you start doing your own development? And then also around this time, are you licensed yet as an agent?
No, definitely not licensed. The way it all kind of like stacked up was once I got hired by these big investment firms, the Windy City RE in Chicago and then the group out of California, you naturally start to you get good at it, right? And then you start adding up what they're doing and how they're doing it, and then you ask yourself, why can't I do this? At least that's how I worked. I was like, I want to do this for myself.
It's also every contractor that works under you has the same thought, right?
You know what? You know what I've realized though? The good ones do.
Yes.
And I want them to, and then I want to help them, and that's sort of where I'm at today. But back then, yeah, I figured, man, I'm doing all these flips for these other people, and obviously I have the advantage of the construction crews working at a lower margin for me. Let's just do it. So I went to Renovo, who obviously you guys are familiar with, and they a couple years back they sent me my original application. That's like another one of those like fun moments to look back on. It was like 20 G's to my name, which is fine. I mean, it's not bad, but to go start buying properties and stuff. It was like 20 G's to my name, 0 experience. Like it was the leanest application you've ever seen. I think I talked my way through that enough that they gave me a loan on a house on the South Side and South Shore. One leads to one more, and then one more leads to two more. And before you knew it, me and my other buddy, Alex Bach, we've probably flipped about 50 properties on the South Side. And then the next part of the evolution is, okay, there's these guys and girls up north doing these like really fancy developments. So at a networking event, I connected with an individual who built brand new condos. And once I saw him doing it, I was like, well, why can't I do this? Partnered with him on a project. That's the ugliest experience of my whole life. I don't know if we want
Let's dive in.
We'll dive in. Before that, though, I remember early on in those financial statements when we were doing the community bank, like you had the line item of personal property.
Oh yeah,
and that was like all I had in my life. Like I inflated my what my stock holdings were. I inflated my life insurance, like future
Got like a car on there.
Yeah, like my couch. I think that was at least if I sold it right now for $1,500, I gotta add that on there. Like I was trying to find anything I could to like make it something that it wasn't.
But that's the great part about like a Renovo type of a company. I know we could probably argue like hard money loans all day, but sometimes like the hardest part of doing what we do, doing what investors and flippers do is like the barrier to entry, right? Like you need experience to get experience. Like that's very frustrating. We deal with people all the time. They get rejected because they don't have experience. Well, how do you get experience? So I think part of it is, having those companies that are willing to take a smart risk on certain individuals. If they didn't give me that loan, I don't know. Maybe I'd be back at Accenture and probably less gray hair actually. So that, man, I'm going to try not to get too like personal on this one, but it was bad. It was a 1,400 block of West Grand, rezoned, planned out for 5 3,000 square foot condos. So
what, vacant lot, or what are you demolishing something?
I got brought in. We were demolishing an old Chicago brick, like 3 flat or something like that. And I got brought in, and the deal I made can't believe I'm putting this out there, but 100% of the cash came from my side for 50% of the equity or upside, whatever you want to call it.
That's fine if you're a doctor out in New York or California, right? It's
Or
not fine
if
in a region when you're
if you're really familiar with who you're going into business with.
new business partner and you're on the ground.
So, but I think I was just so caught up in like the sexiness of these new condos. It was around like 20, I'm probably wrong, but around like 17, 18, something like that. So these were like, he was doing really nice product, and he took me on a little tour, slick back hair, this guy. And I was like, man, fine. So I raised money, and day one I get there, it's demo day. I've never done new construction. So even though I've done these houses on the south side or whatever, it's a different world. I've never seen an excavator before, right? I walk up and I see the excavator, and I see this old Irish dude, as you guys know, as it tends to be, sitting in the excavator. And man, his face is like bright red, and I'm like, where's the project manager? Where's the GC? It's just me and this guy. I'm like, are you okay? He's like, no good work today. No good for me work today. Like, ended up puking in the alley. So the guy who was sent there to demolish a 3-unit brick building on the lot line of Grand Avenue, wasted, puking. My partner didn't send anyone else to the job site except a 20-something-year-old kid. That's my stomach. I was like, something's wrong. I knew right away something's wrong. Turns out it was this individual. Well, I'll leave it at that. Individual doesn't have the best business practices. So halfway through the project, I ended up buying out the whole project, and it wasn't that easy. There's months of negotiating and moving things around, and a lot of really stressful days. And so I finished it on my own. I finished the 5-unit condo building, hired my own contractors, had a lot of really good help, and that was like. Do you guys ever find like people who do like flips and stuff like that? They have this fear of like the new construction. It's like they've never done a foundation. It's like, it's not that hard. You just hire the best foundation guy, and then after that, framing, and then it's what you're used to. So once I did that once, I was like, okay, moving forward, buck stops with me. I'm never giving someone my money to make decisions anymore. I have to make the decisions and pay the bills and all that. So that's sort of the one rule I established that day. And from there, I don't know, I feel like I've done maybe 4 or 5 other condo projects and like 10 to 15 single family houses.
How did that turn out compared to what you were planning it to be? Was it
like the numbers?
Yeah, was it break even? Just then you learned a lesson? Like, did you actually make money on it?
For sure lost money.
Okay.
So talk to us though. Like, you raised money, right? So talk to us about some of those conversations. It's one thing to lose your own money when you have other people, and now it gets.
So it was me and again Alex Bach, him and I are 50-50 on a lot of stuff, and then we go and sort of do our own friend and family raises. To this day, I've never not paid an investor back. So, yeah.
So they got made whole.
They don't even know what happened to me or what happened to Alex. I always make sure it's. Especially because the way I set up the loans, they're not a part of my equity structure. So it's a simple business loan.
Yeah, they're just lending you money like Chase or Wells Fargo.
Yeah, and I'm smart enough to know it's not fair for me to tell them, hey guys, the project sucked. Well, okay, what if the project would have made $2 million? They weren't getting any of that. They
signed up for a straight line. This is your monthly dividend.
They're happy.
Yeah.
I definitely lost money. It wasn't the last time I've lost money on a project. This isn't easy.
But you come out of that though, you've learned so much. You actually you get a springboard forward on everything else you've done.
1,000,000%.
Like the education you got.
Wouldn't trade it for the world. That if that whole thing doesn't happen, nothing I've done since or in the future will have happened. I don't even know what I'd be doing. I needed to take that risk, even if my gut was kind of off about it. I'll never do another risk where my gut is off about it, but that one.
But it didn't feel like it in the time. I imagine you had a lot of sleepless nights, whatever, pit your stomach, stress. Like you might have even checked yourself out of the business a couple times in that period.
Yeah, that is what led to me becoming a residential broker. A lot less risk in that game. So yeah, to your point, it gets pretty like dark when you're in those times. I had moments I could recall where I couldn't get out of my car. Like, you don't forget those, like you're stuck there. I was like, that's as bad as it gets for me. It's about as low as it gets. I'm like, I physically couldn't move. So I started studying for my real estate exam. Again, that's scary too. I'm going to shut down my construction company, and I'm just going to focus on something else that also doesn't guarantee you money. But that also was a great little tool to add. So
there's people listening right now that are going through that moment. They can't get out of their car. They're struggling, and I think it's just I thought it was important that we really point that out, because when you're in the middle of it, you can't see outside of it. You can't see future version of yourself. You can't see how this is going to better you.
Oh, you can't see tomorrow. You are just locked in that moment.
Yeah.
It sucks.
yeah, yeah. I think it's important when you're like looking back on it to know that there's probably 5 people around you that have all gone through the same thing, and they're there to help you.
Yeah.
There's very few people, if you pick up the phone and say, hey, I made this bad decision, got myself in this little bit of a pickle. The more you just put it out there, you don't have to whine to everyone
There's
you know.
therapy in that. Like,
Correct.
There's therapy for doing that, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, otherwise you're holding it in. You feel like you've done something like criminal when it's not criminal. You just made a bad decision on on a construction project. So yeah, that was it for me. I was like, I need a break. Jumped into residential over at North Clybourne Group, and then at Compass, residential brokering, sorry. And then once I got my confidence back a little bit and sort of recovered financially, dove right back into all the stressful stuff.
It's funny. My first tenant, the first invest property, put the first tenant in, took the first sad story. Everyone's probably heard this, but my exit out of that, like, screw this. I got my broker's license now. I'm going to go sell other people these problems. I'm not going to deal with this pain anymore. Like, that was my 2003 mindset.
I'm kind of back there now. Like, when great deals come to me now, I first send them to my developer clients. I'm not picking off deals. I'm like, I just want to build other people's development careers, because I've tried it. I've had some wins, but I've also had some losses. It's really hard in Chicago. It's not easy to go build a condo building or a house and just make money. I feel like I hear stories out in Florida and Houston and these other markets where it seems a lot easier. The margins are tough here, and there's so many things that could go wrong. If I could give it to my carpenter, give a certain deal to my carpenters who are trying to build for themselves, and they have that sort of built-in advantage where they can make money by doing the work themselves, or maybe their systems are tighter than mine, I'll take the no risk commission at the end of it. So that's, to catch you all the way up to today, that's my focus is really there. It's not to say I won't build a couple things on my own, but I really want to build a base of really good developers and sort of help guide them and avoid some of the mistakes I've made.
Well, I mentioned that, then you can put your money in different places and invest with different ones, because you have those relationships.
Yeah, first I have to find the money, Mark.
Yeah. Well,
once I have said money.
You've done a bunch of development, investing, like you have properties now. I mean,
Yeah.
I imagine you've grown a pretty substantial portfolio over the years.
Yeah, so I'm up to about 50 doors, but I'd say half of them are still in like the final stages of construction, so it doesn't feel like it. I know you guys get that. It's all debt right now. But yeah, 50 doors across probably like 8 or 9 buildings. And yeah, it's tricky. When I first started buying investment properties, like to hold on to, interest rates were like 3%. And I had not gone through a full cycle of, in this world of like interest fluctuation. So obviously I'm not dumb. Like I understand what interest rates are, but until you feel it, I think I didn't understand that when these rates went from 3 to 7, it's not the same deal anymore. Like you can't even buy the same building. So I bought a bunch of buildings right before rates doubled. And I think it's pretty crazy, because the refinancing of those properties is my current challenge.
Yeah.
Because, I underwrote those things at 4, because that's what all my other, I have a 3 flat on Sheffield or Armitage, 4%. And I'll never, ever get rid of that thing. But, yeah, it's crazy how there's a lot of shit you don't know until you go through it, I don't know if you guys have experienced that.
It's true, because the interest rates, to me, were not that big of a deal so far. Sure, I've just having to kind of adjust things or make sure you're buying better. But I went through that where early 2000s where everyone's like, man, you guys don't know how good you have it having 6, 7, 8% rates. Like,
And you hear it, but I never really
Yeah.
like took it in. It sounded like, oh, you don't know how good you have it. It's like, yeah, I know, it's great. But it's like, no, now I'm like, damn, I should have bought everything before.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that. You should have bought everything. Should have paid the premium to lock it in, right? And it's like the other thing too. It's like it's not that they went from 3 to 7. They did it in 9 months or whatever, right? You just if you're doing a cash out refi, and you know, in no circumstance do you ever assume the rate's going to double in 1 year, right? Like that's I don't want to say
No,
black
and
swan, but that's not in anyone's pro forma, no matter how much you stress test, right? And it is what it is. Like this is the game we play. Like, I'm not complaining, but it
is, but I guess my kind of overarching point is like just like I had some hard lessons to learn with the other 2 careers. That
Yeah,
that
it had to
this
happen.
Oh my god, I didn't know what DSCR. Is that what it is?
yeah.
I didn't know what
LTV, when
I didn't know
LTV
what that
doesn't matter,
was.
and you're like, oh,
I'm like, wait a minute, you're gonna cap how much money you're giving me back? Like I thought this was like I thought I just buy buildings, then you give me all my money back, and then I go buy more buildings. It was fun. now it's like it's a little sticky, but yeah, that's out of all the things I do, that probably makes me feel well. The brokering makes me feel good too because I'm helping people, but there's something so comforting about owning property, and it's like it's an empowering feeling. It's like I'm not going to sell this until I want to sell it, or like it makes me feel. It's kind of what I'm most proud of, I would say. So I'm going to do everything in my power to keep building on those 50 doors. We pretty much gut rehab almost everything, so these are really
control
solid.
maintenance, everything.
Yeah, you would think.
you've done some big projects though, right? Like, you took on that one on Addison, the crazy foundation one. Like, I'd like to dive in there because that was one. Even I was like, I don't know what to do here. So
yeah.
can you give some backstory on this guy?
Sure, we might have to burn the tapes after, but yeah. So Addison and Bell, it was a 6 unit, became a 7 unit through the ADU, I believe. This, like we do, we're searching Redfin, MLS, whatever else, and I keep seeing this big building, a corner building for like half price, maybe a third of market price. I go for a showing, and the broker discloses that there's some structural issues, and obviously the building has a little bit of a lean to it.
Oh, it's got like a 15-degree lean. It is.
Little bit of a lean. Tom. It's not that bad. And I don't really know what to say. I mean, I have so much confidence like in the people, the construction guys that are around me, that I took them. I went back there 2 or 3 times. Do you really think this is like this dollar amount, or could it be this dollar amount? And they're like, no, we could do this, and this, and underpinning. And yeah, obviously you got to take care of the structural issues, but my scope of work and cost compared to what the lovely lady selling the building were 2 different things. I think she probably took a retail estimate from like a foundation company at face value instead of digging into it. So yeah, we're almost done there. They'll be on the market just in time for the Christmas renters, which is perfect.
I got one of those too. We'll be fighting for.
Yeah. My timing is just impeccable. But no, I mean, look, I don't have enough money to like buy that building at its full market value and multiple offers. So when I see an opportunity like that, or I'm trying to, maybe I wouldn't today, but 2 years ago when I bought it, I was like, heck yeah, I'd rather buy something for super cheap and put in a little extra money to fix it just to get in the game. Yeah.
Is the sole competitive advantage in that particular deal for you that you know the right people and you understand the actual problem? Or is there more that could have went wrong that you just had confidence it wouldn't happen?
I think that's definitely the main competitive advantage, right? That I've built from the ground up. I have like foundation guys that I have seen pull permits, talk to inspectors, pour foundations, do shoring, like, all these terms that otherwise are kind of scary still scary for me, but like knowing that you have individuals that aren't going to go put their name on something that's going to like fall over. That's the main competitive advantage. The other one is having gone through, this is working out well. Like all those kind of scary experiences that we talked about earlier on, it softens me at least a little bit to like certain risk tolerance. And again, it's not to say that I just want to go around doing dumb shit, but like, I felt like that was a risk worth taking. Yeah, but we might have to burn these tapes. We'll see. See how it turns out. No, we did a lot of structural work. The units are turning out beautifully. And you know what? My theory too is like, I'm not going, like I live 10 minutes from the building. I'm going to drive by the building twice, 3 times a week. I'm very involved in my properties. So like, thing ain't going to like fall over. If there ends up being little issues, we're here to tackle it.
Man, I had a property in Bronzeville that one day, it was one of those things like, yeah, it has a little lean to it, but it's 120 years old. And then like a couple months later, it's like, man, that lean is getting a little worse.
No.
Like, yeah. So you start,
Why are you telling me this?
I remember pulling back like the MLS picture and like seeing like the picture, like standing there here, like looking at my phone. I'm like, man, so we started getting numbers, and like the numbers were sick, like $200,000-$300,000 to do whatever all those words you were just saying.
Yeah.
And then the house burned down, and I got a total loss. So not that sounded horrible how I said
everyone
delivered
okay?
that story. Yeah, no, everyone.
I was going to say
fine.
congratulations. as
Yeah,
long
no,
as
it was a
everyone's okay.
congratulations, but the way I said the story made it sound like I did it. But no, I got lucky. I guess with that.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Got on fire today. You're burning houses down. You are.
Have you dealt with like a vertical? They do these vertical surveys where they'll like, so they'll mark it at a point
They'll
in
mark it.
time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind moving. I'm almost certain I'll end up doing that here.
Just so you could track the
100
progress.
you sleep at night.
I imagine
Yeah.
it's fairly reasonably. It's not too expensive
No,
either.
not too expensive. And we also obviously had a structural engineer come in. So, yeah, that one's a wild one, but I love it.
But it's crazy, and I want to go back to this of, when you're that first project, the condos, it goes where like, oh my God, I can't get on my car. And so like as humans, we rebound to like, all right, I'm back. I survived that one here. I can go do another one, right? Not just do another one, but like take on similar. Once you go through it and you get your teeth kicked in once or twice, like you're able to bounce back. Like you build that resiliency. And I know it's hard for that person who owns their 1-3 unit right now to see that or understand that.
Well, to speak to that, I think what keeps you in your car in the first couple of years just becomes an everyday problem 20 years later. Like things that
Yeah,
crippled
the bigger
me.
you, what's this quote? The bigger you get, the bigger your problems become, or
Yeah, the
whatever
things
it
that
is.
might have crippled me or maybe not want to get out of bed or thinking like, oh man, I got to change industries. Like back then, are things just like, all right, I got to call this guy, I got to do that. Like, you know how to solve them now. It's reps of like kind of going through it.
For sure. Yeah, you start to understand that you're going to wake up the next day and everything's going to mostly be okay. That you have time to work through issues and you have help, and yeah, it affects you a little bit less.
And I think most problems, even outside real estate for me, I start reflecting like, is this going to be a week from now? Am I going to be really upset about this? A year from now, am I going to remember this? Like type things to help me kind of at least control how I'm feeling in the moment. Because man, we're humans and we let emotion take over.
Yeah, elongate the time horizon.
You get a bad night's sleep, everything feels worse.
For sure.
So
For sure.
I want to touch on the agency side here because deal flow is tough right now, right?
Yeah.
And you're still out there and you're finding deals for developers. And this isn't just finding like, oh, I found you a 3-unit. Like this is finding like big projects. So talk to us a little about the process and how you're able to be successful here.
Well, specifically for my, like we're staying away from like retail residential buyers, right? We're talking
Sure,
like
and I
developers.
know you succeed there and you do that there, but let's talk about the actual development side because that's probably more of our listeners.
Everything starts with the deal. That's the one thing that I've learned, and it sounds like you understand that. Relationships are great, and I've been able to build up this little base of kind of known buyers, right? Like developers that you know will actually put a shovel in the ground and get to the finish line, but they'll take the next call from the next broker that has a good deal. So the name of the game for myself and my partner at Dreamtown is to just be consistently looking for potential deals. And it's not, I appreciate that you say I've had success in it, but it's tough. It's really hard, especially right now, to come across deals. And I think the reason for that is in the development game, it's all about projecting. And this is going to sound ass backwards, but I am relatively conservative in nature when I'm giving other people advice on their money. I'm not this broker that says, hey, you're going to build this house and it's going to sell for $2 million when the neighbor sold for $1.9 million. I'm going to tell them $1.9 million. What that does in Chicago, especially in this market, is it kills 90% of deals, maybe 95. So I was talking to a buddy or a partner, someone last night, and I was like, dude, I think we just got to start projecting again. Like, we live here, we believe in Chicago, we believe in the power of real estate. If we're going to do it, we have to push prices up. So to get back to kind of your original question, every day I'm scouring. You know what we do. We take a weird house and then we look up the zoning and we see if the zoning would maybe allow for something else. And now we've been thrown this curveball with all these weird ass ordinances and everything else. So there's a whole formula to trying to put a deal together. But the real key to me is like having the confidence to project that the product is going to sell for higher than we've seen sell. I don't know if you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but like if you try to use 23 to 2024 numbers, nothing pencils out because the cost of land and the cost of teardowns hasn't really gone down. So something has to make up that difference, right?
Yeah.
So it's been really hard, and it takes a level of confidence too, I think, to recommend to a developer to take on this project, and I promise I'll sell it for more than the neighbor sold it for, right? You have to have confidence in their product and then in your ability and then in the market.
Yeah. You kind of glanced over it because it's second nature to you, but just finding the opportunity, whether it be what'll zoning allow, is it ADU? Like this seems so simplistic because go through it every single day, but a lot of, people come to me and here's this property. What can you do with it? And it's like, well, it'll come to me, hey, found this, it's R5, right? Or whatever. Like, all of a sudden, like ears are perked, right?
I'll soapbox a little bit. Like if there's, I'm not good at like math and school and all that stuff, but if there's one thing I geek out on, it's zoning. I love zoning. We could spend the rest of this hour talking about zoning because it's a cheat code.
Yes.
So for anyone listening, if you're trying to figure out like what's the next thing, that you could do to sort of give yourself a leg up, even if you're not a broker, just as an investor or a builder or whatever, just start paying attention to lot sizes and zoning, because that's an underbelly of opportunity that doesn't get, most brokers, residential brokers aren't putting in that corny summary description. Guess what? You could actually this is wild. I tore down a $1.7 million single family house in Lincoln Park, and I built 4 condos.
R5.
It was R4, but it was double lot. Like I'm thinking about that now. Like that was crazy. Yeah. That's another one. I'm not sure I would do it again, but like no one else was looking at that 1 point. I walked in the house. I'm like, I'll never own a house this nice, and I'm about to tear it down. I would live here like happily the rest of my life. Tore it down and built 4 really high-end condos. So if you could sort of spend some time on, I think it's Second City Zoning is that one website. Although now with that new like AI thing that Google has, it'll just tell you. If you type in like, what is this zoning? What could I do? It's not as complicated as it looks, and it's an unlock to find deals.
Yeah, and if you don't understand zoning, we have the zoning cheat sheet you can download as well. So when it sees,
there you go.
It says R4, R5, whatever, you understand per square foot a lot, what you can build, what your setback requirements are. It just, Samuel Pavlicek does a nice job just spelling it all out. So literally, once you have the data, you can figure out the possibility and then back into numbers from there.
Yeah, and then coming up, I think, especially for your guys' listeners, to pay attention to all of the, and I'm sure you guys talk about this. Actually, I've heard you talk about this. The new ordinances and some of the stuff some of it's negative, right? But there's also a lot of talk about positive pro-development stuff coming up, right? With maybe getting rid of the one-to-one parking. What else have I heard?
Yeah.
Opening up the ADU.
Might go citywide, yeah.
Yeah, so there might be some things that come in to kind of counteract some of these less developer-friendly ordinances where, again, if we catch it early, all of a sudden that you could build a 6-unit where previously you were only able to do 3 because you could only fit 3 parking spaces. So I think you got to look for like those gaps and those margins to kind of make a deal possible.
Yeah. Even with the negative ordinance, like let's talk about the deconversions. So like, we're talking about Logan specifically. If you can't do it because it's 50% of the block or whatever the new ordinance is, I'm not going to butcher it on the air here. But that means when you do have 50% of the block that is single family, because it's already been deconverted or whatever, you might be delivering the only $1.6 million product next year. Right? Like all of a sudden, like supply already is demand's very high, supply is already very low. Supply might disappear.
It's arbitrage in a way, right?
Yeah, like all of a sudden, like you might have that one opportunity you might pay $100,000 more for than you did the year before because there aren't 6 other builders delivering that product, right?
Yeah.
Like so there's still opportunity there you got to look for.
For sure. Yeah, a lot of times if you could catch that in between again, you could end up with something that's low in supply and it works out nicely for you. So those are the kinds of things I think to get to like the next level for me. That's what I got to start paying attention to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's keep the broker head on for a second. Yeah. Take out the crystal ball. What neighborhoods are you hot on for the next, call it 3 years, 5 years?
People are going to get sick of this answer for me, but it hasn't changed. Like I love Lincoln Square. I think really we'll just say since COVID, as if it was like an exact moment in time. But since COVID, I think just development has pushed that way. You have developer friendly, help me out with what I'm looking for, aldermen.
Yep.
Typically, and there's one in place now. So zoning changes, which then again allows a different type of housing stock to be built. Really good schools all around there. The need to be so close to downtown, obviously that has steadily decreased. We're starting to see it tick back up a little bit, but compared to pre-COVID, it's not there. So you kind of mix this opportunity to build like a really nice new housing stock with like a hip, cool, sort of like slightly untapped. I know it's plenty tapped, but still generally untapped area. I love Lincoln Square. There's that one Sheehan had. We're probably gonna have to cut that because I think he lost the listing. There's that one building, the Ash, that was over there. I think it was like Foster and Lincoln and Foster, something like that. Which is all of a sudden you get these expansive big units in the 600s, maybe low 700s, where if you brought them, up towards Bucktown, Wicker Park, you're over $1 million. So I love Lincoln Square. I still love Avondale. I hope the sort of like fun, what do we want to call it, like retail, like restaurant, food, drinking, entertainment. I hope that continues to grow over there. The housing stock is going to come, right? It's kind of pretty much. It
keeps coming west. It keeps just creeping.
Well, because it goes where developers can afford lots. That's kind of the name of the game, right? Like, I can't buy a lot in Lincoln Park anymore. So where am I going to buy it? There's, I had a really nice big project on Carmen over in Lincoln Square. I got a 30 by 155, bought the lot for $525. You can't buy a dumpster in Lincoln Park for $525. So I think things tend to follow where we go and where we go where there's opportunity. So I think we saw that happen around the 606 and in Humboldt Park. I guess Humboldt Logan, like the 606 didn't create magically all that value. What created that value was really cheap lots that then builders went and built really nice new houses that you could afford. So I think that, I think it's going to continue to follow where developers could pick up good opportunities. And I see that in Lincoln Square. I see that in Avondale. Man, so many of our neighborhoods are like, feel tapped out. I know they're not tapped out, but like where else can you go? We're always tempted to go south, but Pilsen kind of like had its run. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
No, I love the Lincoln Square answer. And this is, as someone who's done a decent amount of business in Logan Square, like I would raise my family in Lincoln Square over Logan Square 10 out of 10 times all day, every day. Like I love that area, from North Center going north there to Lincoln, love it. Absolutely love it.
It's like a suburb in the city.
Yeah, and it's I never understood. I understand Logan has probably more, that hipster vibe and
we
the
have
nightlife.
The farmers market.
Yeah, but it's like, all right, why am I paying $200,000 more for my house when I have better schools in Lincoln Square, better community? I don't know. I'm with you. I'm very bullish, and I've said this because we had 2 years ago. We had exact projects in both neighborhoods.
Yep.
And the one in Logan sold for a lot more, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, Logan had its moment on top, and I think it might have came and went, unfortunately, because I had a similar project to you and it didn't work out as hot.
Yeah,
the deconversion Logan Square craze, I think, kind of. I'm not going to say it went, but it's simmered a little bit.
Yeah, but like all the fundamentals of going from North Center connecting to Lincoln Square, there, like I agree with you 100%.
I love it. I just helped my best buddy and his wife buy like an extra wide red brick 2-flat for them to own or occupy right there at the square. And I was just like walking up and down that block. They're building $3 million houses. It's over there on Giddings, and I'm just like, man, this is the move. It's going to do nothing but continuing to grow. What do you think? There's got to be a new answer somewhere. I'm running out of.
No, no. I've always thought going 90 north in through North Park, I've always thought that was considerably affordable.
For like single family houses.
Just for living all together. Even the apartments were always fairly affordable. And when it's something like that's affordable, obviously where it's not affordable is gonna, like you were talking about the developers, the people will start going that way because they can get more for their money, or they can get better schools, or they can get a house versus a condo. And I think it's been like that since I got in real estate up that way. Like I wish, go back and buy more stuff up that way. But I think when you go further east, then it just becomes too conservative, too left. And, I think those prices are way cheaper. You get to Rogers, Uptown, and Edgewater. And that area is so affordable, but you can't do shit over there. Like there's too many people that don't want stuff to happen. They don't want change over there. So you're forced to kind of a little just west of that. And that's kind of what you guys are talking about.
Yeah. I had a little clip or a video a month or two ago where I sort of stumped for Edgewater, just solely based on its potential. Edgewater and Washington Park, obviously, two different areas, but those are the two places that I'm always like, you ever go there like on a Saturday afternoon, it's sunny out, people are playing tennis, or you're up in one of those high rises and you're like, what is going on here? Like, this is a gem. Why? There's something that doesn't add up, and maybe you just hit on it. Maybe it's political, or I'm not quite sure, but those areas should be booming with new housing stock, with restaurants, with entertainment, with people safely enjoying themselves, right?
Yeah, we manage some of the, lack of better words, kind of weirdest type of units, call it Rogers Park, Edgewater, Uptown. And I say weirdest where it's like, all right, like the tenants are more worried about having as many plants as they can fit in the stairwell as possible. Or
I love plant people.
We have an owner that just moved out that hired us, where she's like, hey, listen, I just want to find the right artsy type of person. I'm like, well, I can't, you got to have the whole spiel with them. But she's like, but if we have to keep it on the market even for longer, like I want to find the right person because they'll be great for the neighborhood. And it's like, then if you just look at the landscaping up there, it's just like totally different when you're in those neighborhoods. And the ability to build stuff or convert stuff is so difficult up there. But it's just a very conservative left mindset up that way.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens. And maybe this is more of like a 30, 40 year out thing, but like with all those high rises along Sheridan, I'm just interested to see what happens with those. If big time players will come in and like buy them out and make them proper, because if you gut one of those that's on the lake, you can't tell me that out of town people moving to Chicago won't come and buy those things up for double what they're getting right now.
You should not be able to buy a 1-bedroom facing Lake Michigan for under $200,000.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Those are all floor to ceiling windows,
It's
all
insane.
up and down Sheridan.
We've
it's
all
crazy.
done it. We've all been standing in one of those and been like, should I buy this?
Yeah.
Like, this
Or
is
should I rent it
awesome.
for $1,100?
It's like,
Something doesn't add up. But yeah, we'll see what happens, because some of those buildings are not super well kept.
They're not, and they're all that, and they're kind of coming on that 50, 60 year lifespan of where now huge dollar amounts are gonna have to be put in, and especially with everything that happened in Florida, there's a lot more talk about CapEx and planning for, and almost some government kind of oversight over what they're not doing.
I'd have to imagine there's going to just be some big buyouts. But when they get there, I'm assuming we'll have some sort of engineering report similar to what happened in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Some of those buildings it's going to be millions and millions and millions.
but Sterling Bay's already working on this, right? Like they're behind the
I hope
scenes
so.
figuring this out.
There was a bunch of attempts to kind of go back, condo to apartment, but you run into the people that this is the one place they can afford. So you had so many people fighting that.
That's
And
true.
I think it just becomes generational then at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah. All right, we covered a lot here. We ready to wrap?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. All right, you've listened before, so hopefully you know the wrap-up questions. If not, just pretend you do.
I do.
Yeah, I like that face. All right, what's your as a developer? What's your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do all this while so many others wish they could?
Mindset. I think we all know that there will always be a million reasons to not do something. So my least favorite person in this entire city is I'm just gonna say the dude that shows up and tells you 5 reasons why it's not a good deal. Bro, like we could all. there's 20 reasons, dude. Every single thing we look at, we could say no. I think you got to do. You got to buy to show the people around you that you buy. I'm not saying to go do a dumb shit decision, right, and lose all your money, but I think it's mindset and overcoming some fears.
Very good. All right. What is one piece of advice you would tell someone that is yet to buy their first property here in Chicago?
One piece of advice. Could I piggyback my last answer?
Yeah.
It's
parlay.
Do. It's do. Like action leads to action. If you get up every day and do, right? So that's the micro. And then at the macro, fine. You want to go see 10 properties, go see 10 properties. Don't go see 100 buy one of them. It was advice from one of my dad's old friends. He's in like his 70s. He's like, I just wish I bought more. And to hear like someone, at their older stage of life saying that, I'm like, that stuck with me. And that's when I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start trying to buy stuff. If I don't have the money, borrow the money. If you can't borrow the money, then go earn the money somewhere else. And just consistently try to buy and own. But it starts with one. You have to do it. You have to go through it, and then surround yourself with some smart people on the project. Don't try to do it on your own.
What do you do for fun?
Golf. I'm the most basic, boring person on earth, man. I just went to, we just had our annual Ryder Cup guys trip. You know this. Over in Hilton Head. So I played Harbor Town. So it's the only sport where you could watch it on TV, watch the professionals and your heroes and all that, and then you could go play the same exact course and sort of pretend like you're one of them. So yeah, I love to golf, and I love to eat. Yeah.
We should have a straight up Chicago investor. Are we big enough where we can have a golf outing?
Probably.
We're there.
Well,
We should have no one to
partner with
organize
you
it.
guys.
So if anyone wants to organize that,
Lance.
we'd be down. Lance is mine.
Actually, we'll make Workman do it at his club.
There we go.
Yeah, Workman will just do it.
I'll bring the booze.
Yeah, well.
That'd be cool. There we go. We're on to something.
All right, there we go. Next summer, June something. Stay tuned. It's in the air.
Yeah,
now.
we'll throw a little charity component in there. Yeah.
Done and done. All right. What is a good book, podcast, or self-development activity you'd recommend to our listeners?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to lie now.
Yoga.
Well,
Yoga?
if I'm
Question
not
mark?
gonna lie, my go-to is spin class, and I'll try to put a serious twist on this. I don't know how it could be serious after I just said my go-to is spin class, but what I don't let anything get in the way of it. I think that's probably the takeaway. Like if I will miss an appointment, right, a money-making appointment to get on the bike and sweat for an hour, because without it, I'm like useless. Yeah. So I would say whatever it is for you, I can't. I'm not a reader. So if it's reading, if it's yoga, you gotta like commit to it, stick with it.
How many days a week you spend?
At least 4. Yeah, I could hear my one friend's voice going, "You can't just only do spin. You're never gonna get in shape." I'm like, screw it. I enjoy it. Plays good music. Yeah.
Other than yourself, name a valuable resource other Chicago real estate investors can benefit from.
Oof, that's a tough one. Just thinking about my own experience, like it's gonna sound like a Renovo commercial, but having Renovo and sort of a local lender here, you kind of get that other. That could be that other, sort of like the devil on the other shoulder, right? Where I'm out there, I want to buy this, I want this, I want this. They're gonna make sure you're keeping it real, right? They'll support you, but then they're also gonna say, hey, did you run your comps? This one's on the other side of the street. That budget looks a little wonky. Even Renovo's construction inspection team, I love when they come out because I'm getting another professional's opinion.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ramble, but this space turns into like a lonely game we play. It's nice that you guys have each other, but a lot of times you're making these decisions like all in your head. So it's really nice, I guess, to have other professionals that maybe don't have skin in that game that could sort of keep you honest and give you opinions and then also support you. So I'd say find a really good lender and definitely find a good broker. If it's not myself, Alex Bach or Alex Morsch.
There you go. All right, Joey, thanks so much. You provide a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
Yeah, DM me. Could you throw my Instagram
Let's
handle
hear it.
up?
What is it?
It's at Joey Halperin Real Estate. I just made a really big move. I joined Dreamtown, starting Halperin and Schatz. David Schatz, another really successful residential real estate broker, represents a lot of developers. So I think our goal is to kind of build, like, next generation, build up Chicago and represent the next wave of developers. So anyone out there who, my advice and my time is always free. You don't have to hire me as a broker. DM me. I'm happy to grab coffee, jump on a phone call, tour some properties with you. Hopefully it comes across that I have a passion for this, as you two do. So, hit me up.
All right, awesome. And we'll link to all that in the show notes. Mark, we got a Chicago fact. Who we playing for and who's sponsoring?
So today's sponsor, Lavelle Law, and we're playing for Ahmad Shabazz, who left a review online for us. And Ahmad, if myself or Joey gets the Chicago fact right, you get a $50 gift card brought to you by Lavelle Law.
All right, I think we can do this one. We got a broker on the team here. So we mentioned your Addison project. That's in North Center, so I did a North Center question. What is the official most eastern boundary of North Center? And I'll make it multiple choice for you. The official eastern boundary of North Center. And your options are Damon, Ravenswood, Ashland, or Southport.
I would say Ravenswood. You pick something different.
Let's go Ashland.
Hey, Ravenswood. Nice work.
All right.
I meant
Good tracks
Ravenswood.
there. Yeah.
All right, men, we got that right. And now Ahmad will get a $50 gift card brought to you by Lavelle Law. So we won it.
Chance
Good job,
would
Ahmad.
be in the Straight Up Chicago Investor Cup as well for golfing, just to throw that out
I
there.
think a lot of people would be. Yeah, I think that'd be a great day. So, all right, Joey, thank you. Tom, thank you. Listeners, go to straightupchicagoinvestor.com and download the zoning cheat sheet. We referenced it here today, and there's lots of great information on there. So check it out, straightupchicagoinvestor.com. Joey, thank you. Tom, thank you. Listeners, we'll see you next week.